Today we will be practicing solving quadratics by using the quadratic formula. This is going to be guided practice. Well, I will do some questions and have you practice questions on your own. So I'm going to go ahead and work on the left. By using quadratic formula, I can find the factors. Now we can have real solutions or we can have complex numbers, which are imaginary solutions. So first of all, we're going to label our A, our B, and our C. So A is 1, B is 8, and C is negative 16. Now I'm going to go to the quadratic formula, and everywhere I have a variable, I'm going to plug in the number with parentheses. So I can find up to my two solutions that I have. So x equals negative 8 plus and minus the square root of 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 16, all divided by 2 times 1. The next step is going to be to get rid of the parentheses. Then I have negative 8 plus and minus the square root 64. And then I have, this is where the mistakes happen. This is a negative 4 times 1 times negative 16. That is a plus 64, all divided by 2. Okay, we're going to add the terms in our parentheses. We get x equals negative 8 plus and minus the square root of 128 over 2. Okay, the 128, we have to simplify that radical. So if you see perfect squares that go into it, you can do the perfect squares. If not, we are going to do the factor tree. So I'm going to find the numbers that go into 128. So 128, I have 2 and 64. And actually 2 and 64, I didn't know 64 went into it. That's your perfect square. But we can continue breaking this down to 2 and 32, 2 and 16, 2 and 8, 2 and 4, 2 and 2. Whatever has a pair, we can take out and put on the outside. So on the outside, we have 2 times 2 times 2. What is 2 times 2 times 2? 2, 4, 8. So x equals negative 8 plus or minus 8. And then what's left on the inside is what I boxed over here, 2, all divided by 2. Okay? So I don't need to write this as 2 answers because I can't take the square root of 2, but I can reduce all of this. I look at my negative 8, my 8, and my 2, and I can divide into both of them. So I'm going to simplify my answer. If I divide them all by 2, I get negative 4 plus or minus 4 divided by 2. Okay, go ahead and pause this video and try the second question on your own. Okay, go ahead and check your work. So one of the biggest mistakes I find is making sure that you did the double negative here so it became positive. Make sure you had the parentheses here so that when you squared it became a 100. Okay, now the 68. Right away, if we don't see the perfect numbers that go into it, then I will do the factor tree. So I broke up the factor tree and saw that I could pull out the 2 on the outside, but the 17 was left on the inside. And the last step, I could divide all of these numbers by 2, and so I did. Remember, when we're dividing, we do not change the radicand. Okay, so here's your answer. Let's try that again. I'm going to go ahead and work out the one on the left. A is 2, B is negative 1, and C is negative 10. So x equals negative b plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. And we're going to divide all of it by 2a. Okay. The next step is going to be to get rid of the parentheses. 1 plus and minus the square root. 1 And then I have negative 4 times 2 times negative 10. That's negative 4 times 2 is negative 8 times negative 10 becomes positive 80 all over 4. Okay. 1 plus 81 equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 81 over 4. I hope you see that you can take the square root of 81. What is the square root of 81? It's 9. So I'm going to do 1 plus 9 over 4, but I also have to do the negative solution, 1 minus 9 over 4. Okay. So I'm going to come up here real quick. 1 plus 9 over 4 is x equals 10 over 4, and 1 minus 9 is negative 8 over 4. I reduce as much as possible. I get 5 over 2, and I get negative 2. Okay, go ahead and try working out the second question on your own. Okay, go ahead and check your work. Now, I kind of ran out of room here, so let me see if I can go through this. I plugged in all my numbers, so check your work here. Luckily, my 16 minus 12 was 4, and I could take the square root of 4. So remember, when you can take the square root of it, you break it up into the positive solution and the negative solution. Something I want to point out, though, notice my positive solution was a negative 1, and my negative solution was a negative 3. So when we say positive solution, it doesn't mean it's going to be a positive number. It means when I did the positive square root. Okay, our last ones for the day. So I'm going to go ahead and work out the one on the left. We have A is 2, B is 4, and C is 5. I'm going to go ahead and plug all of those numbers into where they are supposed to be. You can see that I plugged in all the numbers. My next step is going to be to get rid of the parentheses. So I have x equals negative 4. Inside my radical, I have 16 minus 40. All over 4. Oh, 16 minus 40. X equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 24 over 4. So even though this video hasn't talked about negatives before, we're going to break down the negative into an imaginary solution. Okay? So we have an irrational answer and it's imaginary. So if I break down the 24, what goes into 24 that I can take the square root of? So negative 24, I know that 4 and 6. So I'm going to break it down into negative 1 times 4 times 6. So I can take out the negative 1 and the 4. When I take out the negative 1 and the 4, I get plus or minus 2i. Remember, the square root of negative 1 is an imaginary, and the 6 is going to stay underneath the radical. Now my last step is to reduce this. We can reduce this to 2 fractions. The reason I'm going to do 2 fractions is because negative 4 over 4 becomes a negative 1. So x equals negative 1. And then 2 over 4 becomes 1/2. So plus minus 1/2 I square root of 6. Again, don't forget, when you take the square root of a negative, we can still work it out the same as a positive, but it's going to be an imaginary solution. So go ahead and pause this video and try the second one on your own. Okay, let's see how you guys did. So when I plugged in all my numbers here, this is where I would expect the mistake to happen. This was a negative 31 as my discriminant. That means that my answer is going to be imaginary. I can't break down 31 into anything, but I can take out the negative. The square root of a negative 1 becomes an I in front of the radical. And then this is my final answer. Hopefully this video helped solve quadratics by using the quadratic formula.